Okay, so happy Monday to you, Coby. And let's just dive right into these contradictions you were talking about. So the agnostic part, do not really know. And may I add also that even if said being does exist, we may not be able to understand said being. Um, that's sort of my internalization of being agnostic. And it may not agree with general definitions, but it is what it is. So basically, what it comes down to is just because I do not know or I do not believe said being may be understandable doesn't mean that it's not a possibility. I'm actually open to that possibility, but I have not chosen a faith where that is emphasized. I have chosen a faith that emphasizes looking at the present moment and looking at uh, dukkha, which is suffering. It's a bad term, but everyone knows what suffering basically means. And focusing on that, the conditions that bring about suffering and eliminating that suffering for spiritual purification and basically the achievement of nirvana, salvation, extinguishing the fire of rebirth and all that jazz. I've chosen that path instead of a path that focuses more on this. This is a creator God. This is what the rules that are sort of laid out. Even though we have plenty of rules, especially if you become a monk, they're like 423. Uh, that's not sort of the focus. The focus for me more is on living an ethical life, becoming more compassionate and of goodwill through meditation practice and reflection. Also, a cat, a barn, I don't see those as equivalent unless you're saying God is the first cause, in which once again, that's not what my faith really focuses on. My faith focuses on the here and now. What are the present causes of our dukkha? And so from our perspective, even if we know the answer to that question, it doesn't end our dukkha here and now. So it's it's difficult to wrap our head around sometimes because it's like, well, if we live more like God or Jesus, then that will take care of itself. And it's more of it's on our shoulders type thing when it comes to my tradition of Buddhism, the Theravada tradition. So that's sort of the agnostic part of things. The gods do not care about the human plane. I mentioned in that message that there were exceptions. Of course, I put into parentheses because parentheses are sort of meant as, well, there are exceptions, or here's a side note. So there are exceptions where the gods have pointed out to perhaps a relative from a previous life or a monk that's well revered that they shouldn't be doing something that a deva or a god would be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Or, hey, you were my cousin. I would like you to not do the things that I did. Here's what you should avoid. There are stories of that. Unfortunately, we have thousands of suttas, so thousands of discourses and stories and all that. So I can't really point to one in particular off the top of my head. It's something I have to do a lot of research on. And I got psychology stuff that I'm doing for this week. So that's going to take up a lot of my time. And also something that I firmly believe, this is an attitude, not a weak belief, is just because I believe it doesn't mean it's correct. In fact, I could be wholly incorrect. And the path that I'm going on, it doesn't lead me where it states. It's something that I'm taking on faith. And if indeed I am incorrect, then there are going to be consequences. But I don't worry about the consequences until they get there. So that covers that. Asking for prayers. Okay, well, I don't pray myself. I meditate. I do goodwill meditation. I do compassion meditation when there is someone who is experiencing quite significant dukkha, for example, fighting off cancer, like the girlfriend of this $1 general employee that I was asking prayers for. And I acknowledge that others don't believe what I believe. some people do indeed believe in the power of prayer. And I just don't see where it hurts me to ask for prayers for that person. It doesn't violate anything on my ethical code. I mean, am I stealing anything? Not really. Am I lying? Not really either. I'm just asking for prayers because it's a possibility that the power of prayer is a thing. And there are Buddhist traditions that have prayer flags. So there may be some in another Buddhist tradition or a Buddhist practitioner that does believe in the power of prayer. So it can't really hurt to ask, just in case that possibility is indeed correct. So I think what it all comes down to is these contradictions come into play because there are always exceptions to rules. Even in my own tradition, self-defense is considered a legit action as long as we're trying to stop a person from hurting other people, including ourselves. So that's there are exceptions to rules, and this is a plane. This is not even a plane. This is a realm. This is a realm where I think there are a lot of beliefs that are fair game. They could indeed be correct. Not saying that justifies suicide bombing or anything, or hurting others. That is not justifiable according to our ethical code. The first precept is to abstain from killing people, and that includes injuring people, potentially. So it just comes down to, I believe what I believe, but it may be incorrect. So if it seems like I'm contradicting myself, it's because that's sort of the way that I've viewed things and how I try to live my life. And I appreciate you respectfully bringing up these points, and so that we can have a dialogue about it as opposed to a hardcore debate / argument, which is very counterproductive for our peace of mind. So thanks again. If there's anything else you see or that you want to address, just let me know. All right. So peace, man.